Well, good evening, everybody. I'm going to call to order Woodstock's Planning and Zoning Commission special meeting for December 1st, 2022, and I got 7:39 or whatever time you have, Amy. Designation of alternates. We're going to need two. Well, actually, I'll do the roll call real quick, then I'll mention about the alternates. Tim, do you mind starting off? You're all by yourself seated there.
Tim Young,
Jeff Gordon.
Jeffrey Marcotte,
Joe Belulik.
And then by Zoom, we have David Morse,
Here.
Doug Porter,
Here.
Sid Blodgett. Are you there, Sid?
I am.
Okay, and soon we'll have Dwight Reinowitz. He's in the process of logging in. So we have a quorum for commissioners. I'll note for the record, the following commissioners told me that they could not attend tonight. Mark Blackmer, Nancy Frazier, Dean Gould, Joe Adaletta, unable to be here tonight. And Dan Malo told me he's not able to attend tonight. So designation of alternates, we need to seat some alternates. Without objection, I'll seat Doug Porter. Once Dwight logs in and we see him, I'll recognize that he's here in the meeting, and then I can seat him as well. But for purposes of right now, we're seating, we'll seat Doug Porter. Congratulations, Doug. Consider it an early Christmas present.
Right up there with the rest of the presents. Thank you.
Pledge of Allegiance. We'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. My chair's report will be real brief. We still have our meeting in a couple of weeks listed, so stay tuned for an agenda and we'll see if we have any permits. We'll also at that point get ZEO reports and anything that may have come in about home occupations with regards to applications for us to take a look at. So there is nothing for home occupations for tonight, according to Dan. So there was nothing that he was going to present in that regard tonight. But everything that he'll present will be in a couple of weeks. If you're unable to attend, just let me know so we can just make certain we have a quorum. And my usual thank yous to commissioners for doing the work that needs to be done at the meetings a couple of times a month. And thank you to staff for the work that gets done during and in between meetings. So thank you. That takes us then to the next, which is public hearing. This is agenda item 3, SP 656092022. Activity on a scenic road, town of Woodstock Center Cemetery Road. A few formalities I got to dispense with, so just bear with me. Fortunately, this will be quick because there's not a lot of them that have to be done. We do have some new documents that have been received. We have an email from that's not, oh, here it is. Email from Delia to John Navarro, November 18th. We note that into the record. We have an email from John Navarro, which I will get into in a minute because we have to note some contents of that for the record. That is dated December 1st. We have a letter from Joe Adaletta, November 30th. We note that as well for the record. And we have a nice color-coded map, which may then have to be revised.
Yes,
Not tonight, though, unless you want it. You have this stuff digitally, right?
yes.
Okay. Including the other documents that posted digital?
I don't post anything on the website,
All right,
but I
so-
have it with me.
All right, because I don't know if Dan was able to post the stuff. I asked him to so we could show it on the screen. So I don't know what got posted from. Yeah, it looks like some things did.
These are on my flash drive. This isn't. the
Oh,
website.
okay. Did you get the email from John Navarro?
Yes.
Do you have that? Okay, so we'll show that in a minute. So, but we have the color-coded map of phase 1 and phase 2 that Delia you put together,
Yes.
and you stayed in between the lines, so congratulations for that. So we'll note those for the records. I'll note also for the record, this is a continuation of the public hearing. So all the rules of the public hearing still very much apply with regards to how we are operating, and all prior documents and et cetera that have already been entered into the record remain in the record in that regard. Once the public hearing closes, whenever that may be, there's nothing further that we can receive. It's purely then in the commission's hands for discussion and decision. As far as the timeline, Delia, I know I have that somewhere here, as far as during which to do the public hearing. If we were to table this, I'm not saying we need to, I'm just saying if we were, we would have to then request an extension,
Yes.
I believe. But we're still within the statutory timeline initially to be holding this public hearing, so that works accordingly. With that said, did you want to put up John Navarro's email for us, please?
Yes.
We'll put this on the screen, and I'm just going to go through a couple of items because we just want to make certain that this is clear in the record. This is his email from today. There we go. So this is an email describing revisions to the proposal. And it's important for us to note that because discussions that we'll have will then be based upon where we stand with the revisions to it. So one is that improvements to the area adjacent to the cemetery, installing, well, the improvements already mentioned to adjacent to the cemetery, installing the landscape drains by property at number 45 Center Cemetery Road is something still in the proposal. Dealing with the roadway to widen it, as had already been discussed in the proposal at the dry hydrant. Removing of dead trees technically is not something this commission has to authorize. That's within the town's purview for maintenance within the town right away. It's still noted in the proposal, but I know I had mentioned it before, that technically we don't need to vote upon that. The town certainly can take care of it as it deems fit. Then there's also, when relative to the improvements by the cemetery would include all the items in the original proposal. That's phase one that's been talked about. However, instead of chip seal the apron, which he refers to as the hot asphalt, would extend just past the last catch basin to the north. And we'll show some stuff on the screen as we go through it. He says this apron would have a single chip seal applied the following season to make it appear more like gravel. The landscape drains installed as proposed. I already mentioned the dry hydrant. And then work that the town can do doesn't need our approval, which is clean the roadside ditches and things like that. That's just routine maintenance that the ordinance allows the town to do and doesn't have to come to us for. But I don't know if, I guess John is not here or will be here. I don't know.
I
Jay?
just received a text, he will not,
Okay,
but that's the main reason he sent this memo this morning. And this just came up, so he said, no, he won't be here.
okay. Well, we're very happy to see you.
Always a pleasure to be here.
So I guess what I'll do is, it may make sense, Delia, did you want to show your stuff for phase one? And then, I don't know, we can see how best to explain what John Navarro is.
This is
Proposing.
phase one,
But that's based upon
the original.
original. Did you have a quick question? Otherwise, I'm not yet recognizing
I
the
wanted to
public.
make sure that phase one was in reference to the phase one of 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned. Yes. Yep. So right now, graphically, to try to best show what's being proposed in what John is now proposing, would you want to?
So just wanted to state that what's showing is the same plan that he submitted at the last meeting and was reviewed. I just added color to make it easier to
Mhm.
see the difference. And then if in his email, he explained the amended proposal will consist of making improvements to the area adjacent to the cemetery. That's the majority of the blue area. Installing the landscape drains by the property at 45 Center Cemetery. Those are the green circles. I hope you can see them.
Do you want to point them out to everybody?
they're here and here, and I'll just show everybody online with the little pointer thing. It's where the green circles are. Improvements by the cemetery would include the items in the original proposal, but instead of chip seal the apron, and in parentheses, it says hot asphalt, would extend just past the last catch basin to the north. And I believe that's the end of the blue area. There's a little square there. That's the catch basin. So that would be, this is the catch basin, so it's ending right here. This apron would have a single chip seal applied by the following season to make it appear more like gravel. The landscape drains would be installed as proposed in the original plan, widening for the dry hydrant.
And that's in phase 2, but we've talked already about separating that from the rest of phase 2.
Widening for the dry hydrant would consist of a slight taper from nothing to 3 feet wider at the hydrant, back to nothing over a span of 60 to 70 feet, and will be all gravel. Most people will hardly notice any change, but this will satisfy the emergency service needs. So the brown, sort of like little, almost a crescent, will just get slightly longer and slightly wider.
Then otherwise, the stuff that he's up, that otherwise was proposed for phase 2. He's not including then the proposed
Chip seal. the
chip
brown,
sealing for
the
for phase 2. He's no
peach
longer
brown
proposing
color.
that.
Right.
That would be then taken off the proposal.
So I believe he's still gonna restore the swales and cleaning out the ditches and removing some dead trees, which I don't have identified on here.
But again, that would be moot because
Right,
we don't need to approve removal of dead trees in the town right away.
that's correct.
So that's out of our purview. So I think that would, I'm just looking to see, I think that would cover graphically. So really, other than what would need to be done by the dry hydrant, that whole rest of the stuff that's there is on the road is removed from the proposal. So in a sense, all that coloring then just goes away on the
The
road.
peach brown
Yeah.
color would go away.
So that seems to be the bulk then of what is being dealt with. So that's following up in a lot of discussion that we've had during these meetings about phase 2, phase 1, just not yet. So did you have something, Tim?
So basically, we're looking at everything is staying the same minus chip seal. Dealing with the
for phase 2?
ditching and the drainage and trying to improve the drainage on the road. And in that high traffic area around the cemetery, they're continuing to do what he was gonna do there. Paving the very beginning of it, but just a small area along the side, which will be chip sealed later to make it look like gravel. The rest of it's gonna maintain a gravel all the way, the whole way.
Right,
This-
the brownish color here,
Yeah,
it
right.
won't be touched anymore. Nothing will be done to it, except the normal grading that takes place.
Okay. In the phase 2 that it talked about, just cleaning out the drains and kind of making things better there. And then there was another round of chip seal. They're gonna continue to do that.
So in this portion, that brownish, not the dark brown, but the lighter brown color, that's
Yeah.
not gonna be touched. They're
They're
not
not
gonna,
gonna do any of the drainage work or anything in that.
just the cleaning the swales, which is the greenish section.
Just doing that type of cleaning work is maintenance, doesn't
Right.
need our approval.
Okay. It was in the proposal, but it's not something we have to approve.
No, that type of maintenance work, we don't approve.
Okay.
Removing of the trees in the right of way
Right.
does not need our approval. Maintenance stuff does not need planning and zoning approval. Improvements need
Well, I get
planning
the
and
whole
zoning.
chip seal thing, but it concerns me if he's not gonna take care of the drainage issue because we're still gonna have a road problem. drainage needs to be addressed, otherwise the road's gonna.
Well, if you restore the swales, then the water
Right. Then the
should be
water
able to
move
flow.
again.
Right,
down
and
the
that's,
swale.
that's my understanding of what he's
All right.
proposing, is
Okay.
to really remove the bulk of phase two, but still deal with the maintenance that has to be done anyway, which doesn't, it's not technically widening up the road.
Right.
And then the dry hydrant issue, which to me is, would need to be done, and that's something that we've talked about separately.
Right.
Delia?
At the end of his email, he does say, in addition to the improvements, the public works crew will also clean roadside ditches, regrade the gravel portions, and address drainage maintenance issues on the entire road. So it's just not new drainage. He's
I
gonna
just wanted
do,
to affirm that that was gonna be in the phase two area too.
yes.
That's what he's proposing, and again, all of that type of maintenance work is out of our jurisdiction. So the town certainly can do it as it sees fit for that. So that seems to be then what is being proposed. So really, the bulk of it is, for improvements, is in that phase one section,
And it's really at the cemetery. Basically,
down by there.
it's really the only thing that's being.
And drainage ditches up.
No,
to
no, just,
45.
excuse me, I just asked the public to just, before you speak, we just have to recognize members of the public. Thank you. Did that answer your questions, Tim?
Just to be clear, the portion of the road adjacent to the cemetery, he will still do the part where he talked about putting in the Cape Cod curb
Yes.
and lowering the side of the road, but reseeding it with grass so that the cars could park there during a funeral or when people are visiting the cemetery. That's still part of the proposal, but that will have grass on the surface.
One question, is that on by the cemetery, is that being left gravel except where they're putting the asphalt down? Or are they gonna chip seal that?
Which one are you referring to?
The one by the cemetery, right off County Road, where they're
Right.
gonna put the asphalt in on the apron to control all that. And then do the side, is the rest of that gonna stay gravel or are they gonna chip seal that?
So can you see my screen with the little map?
Yes, I have it, I also have it on my thing, I just,
Okay, so in phase one, the brownish, whatever color you want to call that, it's not blue, it's the other color. They're
yes,
not gonna do the chip seal anymore.
okay, they're just gonna leave the gravel.
Last meeting, so the revision email came in today, which is after I put color on the map.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was clear that, so there's no chip seal at all being done.
During the blue area, or within the blue area, it will.
Yeah, no, I understand that. That's the asphalt part that they're gonna put on to control the apron. I just wanted to make sure the brown part was just gonna be left gravel or if it was gonna be chip seal. But that's just gonna be gravel.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's understanding from what he proposed is that color stuff there, that whatever color it is, red, brown, whatever, goes away.
Okay,
So just the blue.
I just want to make sure I was clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else from commissioners? Yes, Joe.
Yeah,
Walpole.
I have a concern. I can see why you're doing away with the chip seal on the flat portions, in other words, phase two. But in phase one, if some kind of a hard surface, a harder surface, and less erodible surface is installed, that gravel is just going to continue to wash down that steep slope. If it were a flat area, fine. But on a steep slope like that, there's no way you're going to be able to keep that gravel in place. In addition to that, I think the swales alone in the long run are not going to be stable enough. I think that storm drainage with catch basins and pipes are going to be needed up that steep slope. And that may involve increasing pipe sizes down on County Road also. But that's in the future. But I think doing away with the chip seal on that steep portion of phase one is a mistake.
Okay, again, he's proposed not to do that. So,
Well, having designed a lot of these and installed, supervised the construction of them, it's gonna cost the town a lot of money continuously.
thank you. Was any other commissioners? Before I move to the next. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Don't see Dwight on yet. All right. I'll open up to members of the public. Again, this is a continuation of the public hearing. So if you've already spoken during the public hearing, I just ask that you speak to something new. And if it is something new, we can give you 5 minutes. But if it's something that you've already said, we have heard it and it is in the record. So I'll just have to note that we've already heard it. And then we'll just move accordingly. Did you have something? Did you have something?
I just wanted to-
What, 1 second. Do you have something new?
Yeah.
Can you please state your name for the
Kristen
record?
Kaiser at 45 Central Cemetery Road. Mr. Navarro's diagram does show several drainage improvements up by 45 Center Cemetery Road, so it's not that that stretch between the cemetery and the curb is unimproved. There will be drainage improvements, which in theory will help alleviate the drainage that's now going and washing down the road. So it's not very clear, but there are some improvements on his diagram.
Thank you. Did you have something? Do you have something new?
Yes,
If it's something new, I'll recognize you. Please state your name for the
I'm
record.
Charles Kaiser, 45 Center Cemetery. I like this plan. I have one question. The blue area, is that going to be hot asphalt or single chip sealed or double chip seal? I'm not sure based on John Navarro's email here
I read it that it's gonna be hot asphalt and then chip sealed
on top of it.
next season.
To make it look like
Leave it a
gravel.
year and then chip seal it the following season. That's how I read it.
Yes, that's my understanding.
And I like doing this in a phased manner. And if we have a problem with further erosion, we come back and revisit this issue on what to do for stabilizing the slope here. But I think by putting those landscape drains at the top of the hill, we'll get the water out of the road and put it back into a swale. Right now, all the runoff from the big hill that gets past the house is going right into the road and making a channel of it. So, and my concern is, I do have a concern about these landscape drains. What I heard last time was you can't clean them out. If gravel gets in, it's stuck there, right? Well, gravel's not going to get in there just from erosion, but from regrading the road, we may be putting gravel into those drains. So we should think about if that's the proper type of drain to have up there, or if we need one of those catch basin type size drains instead. And with larger piping too.
Right.
Okay, but when John and I walked this, we said the inlet for the drain would be up here and another 60 feet down the road to bring that drain, the culvert out into the swale to get beyond our barways for tractor access.
All right, it's a good start.
Right, but it's going to be a work in progress. We're just going to see how this is going to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to speak? Yes, do you have something? new
Mike
to speak?
Sherman, 95 Center Cemetery Road, just up the ways a little bit. I missed the last meeting, but I thought it was crucial that we have the chip seal up to the fire hydrant. If I'm understanding what I'm hearing now, the only chip seal is going to be in the blue, and everything else, at least at this point, is going to remain gravel. Is that correct?
That's my understanding based
Yes.
upon the revised proposal from the town.
I sort of agree with Chuck. I think we need to look at this as something that may have a phase two. I cannot imagine that hill having driven on it so many times, surviving without an awful lot of maintenance. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak?
I do.
Do you have something new that
I
you
do.
haven't? Is this something new to us that you're going to present?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just was told the wrong time, so let me just grab my pen. Priscilla Gunnis.
So, I'm sorry, I missed this. You're paving up to the cemetery entrance. I thought can we agree that we won't pave until we see if the better drainage has been done? You know, once the better drainage is done, we can see how it works.
Delia, did you want to
Well,
answer that?
since you were late to the meeting, how about we update you?
Later?
No, we'll do an update for what you missed.
Oh, sure. And when will you make that decision? And,
They're not at the decision yet. But I
Okay.
can update you on their revision to the proposal.
In just 1 minute, just if you want to go ahead and finish what you have to
Oh,
say, and then we'll go accordingly, just so
And,
we.
can we start meeting again after the new year? Because this is a lot to go through for the holidays. I know we want to stay on top of this.
Well, we have to follow a statutory timeline. So
Okay.
right now, the commission will decide at some point when it closes the hearing, but there's a limit to how long a hearing can stay open for a law.
Okay, what is that? Nina?
Well, right now, we're within that, and then we could grant up to 65 more days if we received a request.
Okay, from the public?
No, it would be really from the applicant, which would be the town.
Right.
Okay, so I wanted to hire an outside source, get a second opinion on, the cemetery is eroding. And will you accept this or look at it, or how does this work? Because this can't be the only cemetery that's eroding in New England. There are a lot of old cemeteries. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay, thank you. If there's something that you wish to submit, we would have to receive it during the public hearing. Once the public hearing is closed, we can't receive anything further, and there's no further comment allowed from the public,
And
per
this
the
is-
way we have to operate public hearings.
When would that be? I don't understand.
Well, right now, we're in the midst of a public hearing, and we've been doing it for several months,
Oh,
meetings. So once the public hearing closes, it's closed. We don't reopen it.
Will we get
There's-
warning it's closing?
the commission decides votes to close.
Okay.
Yeah, so at a meeting, I can't say if that will be tonight or not, but the commission votes to close the hearing. Once it's closed, it's closed. There's clear statute and law we have to follow regarding the public hearing, and then what happens after a public hearing. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else from members of the public? Let me make certain there's no one I'm missing. I will note that Joy Reinowitz has joined us. Hello, Joy. We'll note that you're here.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for the delay in coming into the meeting.
So we'll just note 8:07. And Joy, we can seat you for the public hearing. I know you've been present during the public hearing.
That's correct.
And I think we've been seating, yes, so we'll seat you at this point. So,
Okay, thank you very
anything
much.
else? Let me just see, anything else from virtual? Okay. Anything else from members of the public? Yes, have you spoken before? Okay, well, please state your name for the record.
Susan Sherman, I live at 95 Center Cemetery Road, and I like the gravel road, but where we live, it's real flat in front of our house, but it's very bad in the spring. And I mean, there are times when you have to try to ride on top of the ruts, so you don't hear your car, on the road, the undercarriage of the road. So I don't mind it staying gravel, but I just would like for there not to be the huge ruts in the spring. I mean, I don't know if there's any way we can correct that, but it's really, really bad. It's between our house and the Dykeman's house in the spring.
Thank you. So any of that maintenance type stuff is not within the purview of this commission. That would be talking with the town highway department. Our purview is very specific per town ordinance for scenic roads. We only deal with improvements for designating a scenic road or undesignating a scenic road. We've never undesignated, we've designated them. Otherwise, when it comes to only improvements, that's where we get it. Anything else with maintenance, this commission has no purview. That would be purely up to the town to decide how to best maintain the scenic roads for that. Anything else from members of the public? Okay, anything else from commissioners? Yes, Tim,
Just
and then I'll
wonder if
recognize
we
you.
can get a copy of this, this to Dwight.
It was emailed to him.
It was.
Yeah, Dwight, do you have all the emails that were sent out with the copies and
The
stuff?
one of today.
They should have
Yes, I
all
do.
gone out.
Yes, I do.
Because I know Dan or you guys had sent them out. And so, yep, in addition to the printed copies. So, did you have something, Delia?
Yes, I wanted to just go over what Dwight and Ms.
Just state your name
Priscilla
again.
told me.
Thank you.
The highway foreman submitted an email today revising the proposal. And so on phase one, the double chip seal, that's the brownish portion showing up here, is no longer part of the proposal. He is proposing to do the blue section and it'd be hot asphalt until the spring when they'll put a single chip seal on the surface, so it'll look more like gravel, less like asphalt. And they'll still do the drainage basins, the landscape basins, which are the little green circles, which might be hard for you to see, but right on the corner there.
Yes.
And then phase two, again, the brownish, the light brown, the double chip seal, that's no longer part of the proposal. He will still do the maintenance on restoring the roadside ditches, and they will still widen the dry hydrant pull-off by 3 feet, and it'll taper from nothing to 3 feet wider than what it is now, back to nothing as it comes back to the other side of the road.
And they're still gonna want to lengthen it. 1 second. They're still gonna want to lengthen it.
Yes.
Which he proposed. Did you have a quick question? I'll
I did.
recognize
So
you.
the blue is the, how come it's just on like one quarter of the road? It's nice, but is that to stop the erosion of the cemetery?
That's the part that was originally requested by the cemetery, and it's part of the worst problem.
For parking? Is that up 350 feet?
I don't have the measurement, I'm sorry, but it's part of the worst problem because when people turn right from County Road up onto Center Cemetery, just the fact that you're turning uphill tends to dig out a hole, and that's part of the problem. And then you have the erosion from the runoff on the actual road. So the paving of that apron is meant to address that portion of the problem.
Okay. Anything from anyone else, commissioners? Okay,
One
Joe
other,
Palula.
one other thing was, we should have 15-inch minimum diameter pipe. And the sumps should be 4 foot.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from commissioners then? I think that touched base upon everything that John Navarro had sent us, right, Delia?
Yes, I believe so.
Anything else from any member of the public? What, do you have something new?
I have a question.
I'll give you, so I just have to give you 2 minutes because I'm recognizing
I was
you.
talking to a neighbor, a longtime resident, and he thought there was a moratorium in the town regarding paving gravel roads. Is that true?
Not for scenic roads. Scenic roads can be paved if approved.
You thought there was a moratorium in that?
I'm not
I've never heard of that.
I've never heard or seen it. I mean, we've received requests previously to have some, to get what the last road was that was,
Smith Road, I think.
yeah, part of it, right?
Right.
And there was nothing told to us about a moratorium. So we've never been aware of it, including when we had a big series of public hearings in 2011 that led to the working document that is used. And there was nothing that ever came up about a moratorium that we've been ever told about. So. Anything else? What is the wish of the commission? Or no wish?
I move that it be closed.
I'll second that.
That was, I think, Jeff, you beat out David by a hair. So motion by Young, seconded by Marcotte to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion on the motion on the table? Hearing none, I got to go through the roll because we have some folks virtual. Oh, he's not here. Sid Blodgett?
Aye.
She's not here. Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Marcotte?
Aye.
David Morse?
Aye.
Joe Palulik?
Aye.
Doug Porter?
Aye.
Dwight Reinowitz?
Aye.
Timothy Young?
Aye.
That so passes. So at this point, legally, the public hearing is closed. So now it's purely within the domain of the commission to have discussions and then make a decision or decide what it wants to do at this point moving forward with its deliberation. So we'll note then that the public hearing is closed. There's nothing further we can receive from the public.
Oh, okay.
That's why I asked a number of times if there was anybody else who wished to speak, but the public hearing is closed at this point. That takes us magically to the next item, which just happens to be old business for a SP 6560922. Activity on a scenic road, Town of Woodstock Center Cemetery Road. I'll open it up from the commission point of view. Usually when we deal with this, we start off with a motion if that's the way the commission wishes to go. Unless we just want to delve into some discussion without a motion.
Well, I guess I have a question. Joe has mentioned some good thoughts about pipe size. I mean, he should know about some of that stuff, and drainage size, is that a possibility to amend that into the to this proposal that John has to make that work?
I mean, I guess we could, suggest that to him, to say the suggestion is for the larger diameter pipe, and then you had mentioned about the basins being what, 4
4 foot, yeah.
instead of what was proposed. That can certainly be recommended to him. I think ultimately the town would have to decide what's best or what fits
Right.
there.
Well, he may have a reason, maybe, this ledge, or, he
Could
this
be.
is what he did, or something existing that he can't go deeper. I don't know, but
Yeah, he didn't propose any sumps at all. And standard, if you're buying the precast units, they normally only buy the 2-footers. But since we're gonna have so much sediment coming down here that we have to capture, the proposal was to go with a deeper sump, which would capture more sediment before it would make it to county road. So that combined with making the cross pipes here instead of 12-inch, make them 15.
We can certainly recommend that. I think, again, ultimately it gets to what you said, which is once the boots are on the ground, what actually can be done. But it can
Right.
certainly be recommended,
Right.
and then he can go from there. He's certainly, an expert in dealing with that. And I know we brought this up before during the public hearing, but I think it's good just to bring it up again. Don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you have qualifications when you speak to some of this engineering stuff. If you don't mind just reminding us. Your
I
qualifications.
can show you my license.
No, I just want to make certain, it's just again noted during our discussion, because we're outside of public hearings,
Okay,
that, you do have that engineering background
Right.
and knowledge. So, I know we know that, but it's good just to have it again out in our discussion. So, is there anything further? From my point of view, I think if we're dealing just with quote unquote phase 1, that seems to address a number of concerns raised by members of the public about phase 2. And it doesn't mean that the town can at some later point decide how it wants to handle things in that section of the road. And again, dealing with the dry hydrant, which this commission had prior approved some years ago. Widening it makes sense from a public safety point of view in order to get the trucks that need to be there, draft the water and make certain you can get still the equipment up and down the road, as needed. So to me, that's a no-brainer, what to do with that pull-off.
so am I to assume that John's proposal really covers phase all. Phase, not phase 1 and 2.
When you mean phase,
Well, the widening of the area, the cleaning of the ditches, which really we don't have to approve, but basically it covers everything that the whole length of what he wanted to do within phase 1 and 2. The improvements will be within that area.
it would be, basically, things are gonna, it would be, other than taking out what he's noted he's
Yeah,
taking out.
removing the chip seal idea.
Yeah.
and that- So basically it covers everything. So we're not voting on phase 1, phase 2 here. We're voting on his new proposal, which covers everything.
Basically, yeah,
We
so
wouldn't do that.
it would cover phase 1 and phase 2,
Right.
but then
Modified.
as modified,
It's
it's removing
Right.
various things,
I just-
correct?
just wanna
Yes,
Understand that.
yep, that's what it is. So there's really, at this point, there's no phase 1, phase 2, so to speak. So, in that regard, yes. So, but it would seem at this point, from what they're really focusing on down by the cemetery, since that was originally what was proposed by the Center Cemetery Association, that would focus in on that area and then do some other things that he feels and that he's previously explained would need to be done to deal with certain improvements. And then again, the stuff that's maintenance. The town does that and doesn't have to come to us for that for appropriate reasons. So it would seem to address, some of the various types of concerns and keep open an option for later if the town feels something additional needs to be proposed, and then, one can go accordingly, getting input on that and that type of stuff and see how things go with that. So I think it would make sense to me what he's proposing with his changes. So. Jeff, did you have something?
I'll move to accept John's plan as he sent it today and give him a bit of leeway on size of pipe and some depths, and it's not stuff that's gonna be it's not gonna affect the aesthetics afterwards. How big a pipe you put in or how deep the sumps are, so. Second that.
I'll second
Let me
that.
just make sure.
Oops.
Let me just, so that was you, Tim, who seconded? Okay.
Oh.
So we have a motion by Marcotte, seconded by Young, to approve the proposal as presented in its amended format, correct, Jeff?
Yep.
And give leeway to the town to decide what best for the diameter of the pipe and the depth of what was that, the sumps? The sumps. And we can certainly, as part of that, mention to John about what you had raised, Joe, Pullock, about, the diameters and the depths of that. And then they can determine, can they do that, or how best they feel they need to handle things. Okay. Any discussion on that? Any discussion from commissioners online? I want to make certain I don't miss you. Okay. Well, if there's no discussion, then we go to a vote on this. Did you get that all down, Amy? Okay. No, he's not here. He's not here. Sid Blodgett.
Aye.
Here. Jeff Gordon. Aye. Jeff Marcotte.
Aye.
David Morse.
Aye.
Joe Palula.
Aye.
Doug Porter.
Aye.
Dwight Reinowitz.
Aye.
Timothy Young.
Aye.
Without objection, that so passes. You'll let Dwight know
Yes.
accordingly. Thank you, everybody. As you can see, when we have to hold these public hearings, getting input from all of you is important. And certainly, I appreciate John Navarro listening to all the input and comments, and we can see that led to some of the revisions in his proposal. So thank you very much for persevering through the process. If there's anything further that people have any questions about, we'd have to, at this point, it wouldn't then be the commission. It would then be up to the highway department. So, but thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So, and happy holidays.
Remember, Kim said it.
Amy, I just wanted to know that you wrapped up, I'm still here.
So we'll move on with the rest of the meeting then.
I'll put it in bold.
Okay.
Do you want
Another one. My relative. She lives on the road.
All right. Oh, we always meet at 7:30.
I'm sorry about that.
So, but thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
That takes us on to the next item is review of home occupation permits. This was supposed to be if we had any home occupation permit applications to review. We had talked about wanting to do that at each meeting and have a discussion with Dan and vice versa, but he says he has none to present. So that there isn't anything. We do still have on our list of things to do, however we want to handle this tonight, or what we wish to do is the commercial cannabis regulations. Our moratorium has been extended to the last day of April of 2023. Where we last left off was how did we want to kind of draft things? We were, I think, looking to see was there anything were we looking to get anything from the listserv? Was Dan going to be looking into that, I think?
I can get it for you for your meet. your
Okay.
meeting on the
I think
15th,
we
but I
can-
don't remember you asking me to do that.
No, I think we might have asked Dan.
Okay. maybe.
I don't know for that. But I'll open up to how we wish to proceed as a commission. We've had a number of discussions, and I know we've looked at, for example, Wellington, not to say we're going to copy and paste theirs, but just to show what some towns have been actively working on. I don't know if we want to get into any of that tonight, or do we want to see some of what has been already discussed, that we've had some discussions about how that might look in some draft wording, and see what we might get from the listserv about what other towns are doing. I know we were also going to be trying to get something from the town attorney, and I don't know if Dan has received anything from Rich Roberts or not, or where that stands, but we were looking to see if maybe there might have been some things already prepared from a legal point of view for other towns that the attorney might be aware of. So, but I'll open up for discussion how we would like to proceed from a process. We will have to, whatever we're going to do, we're going to want to get it done within a certain time frame. We can certainly still, if we so made a text amendment, extend the moratorium to give us time. That we can do. But right now, we're, anything that we wanted to do and get done and enacted, we would want to get done before the moratorium ends. But again, we don't need to have our backs against the wall. I don't think it's as if there's 100 commercial cannabis operations getting a license from the state waiting to come into Woodstock, for example. However, we do want to address the issue. Yes, Tim?
I think we ought to try to compile some stuff to have discussion on, I think. So we've got one. I think Bloomberg is kinda- I don't think it's the same as Woodstock, Thompson, Pomfret. I think this area ought to be somewhat similar in its regulations. I don't think we should be competing. So can we just, get some information from Rich Roberts, some other towns that have done, what is Thompson doing, what is Pomfret doing? Like get some sort of a direction for, trying to make things so that it works for us in this town.
We could do that, I think, I don't know if we had copied at one point, made copies of whatever Thompson was doing. I know Wellington and there were a few others, but that was going back some time ago. We can see, I can circle back with Dan on Monday and see well, I'm not here, but I can send him an email to see where we stand, if there's anything from the listserv, anything from Rich Roberts. What do others think as far as that's concerned? Try to get some of that assembled and see, kind of based upon the notes that I've been taking and others have been taking on some of these items, where we might stand with how some of it might look in wording. I don't think any of us are looking to create a massive book on it, but at least have some things starting to spell out in some wording to see how it might look. and see how we are with some other places.
Am I wrong in thinking that Putnam passed some?
Putnam do
I
something?
haven't heard anything. Normally NECOG gets a notice, but some towns forget to send us their notice. I know Brooklyn did one, we received their notice. Mansfield did one because they're, must be next to our region, so that's why they must have noticed us. I don't know about the other
Maybe
towns.
Putnam had a hearing or something. I thought,
There was something that was a meeting on.
is there a state template or something?
No, there's no state template. The law basically says you can regulate it from a town point of view as you would zoning. There's a few caveats, but otherwise you can regulate it within your zoning parameters. So different places can do whatever. There is no state template. The state's not going to come up with an overarching template for the zoning for it. The plan was to just, give the municipalities the flexibility to regulate it within their statutory authorities. So I don't think, during the discussions by the legislature, didn't sound like the legislature wanted to get into drafting that type of stuff. Figured, they dealt enough, it was a very big bill, and they just left it up to the towns that regulate.
I don't have Thompson, so if we looked at it, I must not have saved it.
Okay, well, we can certainly find out from Thompson about that. Far away.
Have they granted licenses?
Did they grant the license to that thing, to the proposal by the mini golf, or is that where it was proposed?
That's,
They've started work on it.
Yeah, so I thought they had granted an approval.
well, the town did.
Yeah.
But they don't have a actual license from the state.
Yeah, that's
I
separate.
understand.
You have to get a license from the state and all the regulations that the state puts into it.
So
You
have-
mean the mini golf in Putnam?
No,
No,
Thompson,
Thompson.
Jason's restaurant used to be.
Yeah.
Is,
The town did grant an approval.
has the state granted any licenses though?
Yeah, I thought the state has granted some. I know the state has, I think, a process where there's this preliminary review, then there's a formal application review, and it goes through several different intertwined approvals or something like that. It's an involved process when they grant a license. So, but that can be found out. We can access the state site, and it'll list what has been discussed, approved, pending, that type of stuff. I know they received a number of applications. A lot of them were for, of course, big populated areas for that. So, Joe?
When do we have to make a decision on this?
Well, ideally, we would need to have something if we want enacted in time before the moratorium ends on April 30th.
April 30th.
However, we've already extended, that was an extension of the moratorium.
Yes.
If we feel we wanted to extend it more, we can.
All right.
We don't want to keep extending the moratorium and it becomes permanent moratorium de facto. But we can if we want to say, hey, we're working on it. We're just not going to make that April 30th deadline. But we feel if we get 3 or 4 more months or something, we could. So we could see how things are. We can also have this, I can see if we can have this on our agenda for the meeting in a couple of weeks, provided we can see what we're able to get. I just want to make certain we are clear how we would like to proceed, so that way we can get some things together. What do others think about proceeding along those lines?
I think that's a good idea. We need to move along. We've got other issues that we need to
We do.
attend to as well, so.
Okay, what do others think? Everyone else is okay with a process like that and see what we can get together? Hope, maybe even perhaps get a bunch of stuff together if we can for our meeting in 2 weeks. That might be a bit optimistic, but we can still try and see where we are. Certainly getting copies of things from some other towns. We can
Certainly
do.
having some reading material besides.
Yeah. Okay.
Intelligent conversation.
Well, I haven't heard any objections, so I guess we can go accordingly in that regard, if that's okay with everybody. So, all right. I'll
Mr.
send an
Chairman,
email. Yeah. Joy?
can the town just propose to ban any kind of grows in town, or do we have to have some kind of guidelines written, or?
The town could, I believe, through a town meeting, if people so voted, enact, a ban to certain degrees. But right now, there's been no such action. So because of that, we have to then create some sort of regulation.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so then we'll proceed accordingly. I'll send an email out to Dan. Actually, I'll send it out tonight because I'm gonna be going away as of tomorrow night. I'll copy you on it as well, in case there's anything you find.
So are you gonna ask him to ask the attorney, or do you want me to ask the attorney?
Well, I'll send my email out to both of you guys, and Dan will be in on it, because I don't know if he's already asked the attorney or not.
Okay.
I don't know. I know we had talked at a meeting about asking Rich, what does Rich actually have some type of template that already works? Because I know Rich does work for, his firm does a lot of work for a lot of towns. And sometimes he has provided us stuff, just like he provided us the nice text for the moratorium to say, hey, this I know passes legal muster, use the wording, type thing. So we'll find out if, if Dan's asked. He may have, and we can find that out.
I just know I'm not supposed to contact the attorney directly because I don't work for the town.
Well, I'm going to be sending the email to Dan and to you.
Okay,
We'll find out if Dan has contacted the attorney. He may have already, I don't know.
okay,
And if he has, we can just follow up with Rich. If for some reason he hasn't, Dan can just recontact him. Rich can tell us if he has something or not. Rich could also potentially guide us to say, hey, if you're looking at other towns, avoid this town's ones because it's problematic versus, hey, this town really seems to be getting it right. And Rich in the past has given us guidance in that regard and has saved a lot of time and effort whenever he's done that for us, if he has any of that knowledge, pertaining to what some other towns are doing. So, but I'll follow up with Dan about that. So, and see where we stand, about that. Okay. There was a revised agenda that before adjournment, we were going to be having a really lengthy happy hour with the first selectman, because this is technically the end of the work week for town hall being open. So it's technically town hall Friday. So I don't know if you've got the memo.
Amy was hosting that.
Oh, at the Grange.
Yeah, I believe.
Okay.
I think I saw a caterer up there today and.
No, tonight is cornhole night. Get it right. You wanna go play cornhole? The
Oh.
boys are upstairs.
We can still have a happy hour while doing that. So,
Actually, for what it's worth, I encourage any of you that are interested to join the Grange. However, I just want you to know, as opposed to the Elks, it's a dry organization. Not to,
it's sad that.
pressure you one way or another, but I was recently informed when I was working there, it's a dry organization.
so are you suggesting that this commission should make a proposal, maybe even propose an ordinance that the Grange must no longer be dry?
It's a private organization. It's out of your purview.
That wouldn't stop us, though, I think.
Oh, I know.
Gentle persuasion at a town meeting. I don't know if it will work.
I'm nervous.
Well, that takes us to Commissioner Young's favorite part of the meeting.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, I was getting nervous there if no one was going to second it,
Joe's always got my back.
All right. So to adjourn, I'm going to go through the roll. Joe, oh, he's not here. Mark Blackmer's not here. Sid Blodgett,
Aye.
Jeff Gordon votes aye. Jeff Marcotte,
Aye.
David Morse,
Aye.
Joe Palula,
Aye.
Doug Porter,
Aye.
Dwight Reinowitz,
Aye.
and Commissioner Young.
Aye.
Well, that so passes. I have 8:37 or whatever time you have, Amy. Thank you, everybody. And stay tuned then for our meeting in 2 weeks.
See you then.
Have a good night.